Hey, Dylan.
Hey, Mike.
Dylan, I have got some more information on the Sunburn Gaming from my contact on the inside.
Okay. What is this information?
I can't think of that race in Star Wars. I just lost it. I was going to use that line from
Bothans?
Bothans. Many Bothans died to bring us this information.
I think that's it.
Bothonians?
No.
I don't know. Many Windows Phone 7 users died to bring us this information.
Check chat, because I'm sure someone there is. I guess I could.
You could no. We'll kill it. I have, by ways of contact information through the underground network, learned that they now have a native garbage collection system up and running. This is key because this means you don't have to do any memory management in this unannounced version of Sunburn that will run native. So compiling to C++, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago, what this could mean is that if you had a native compiled Sunburn that used C as its layer, then in theory, you could have Sunburn on iOS and it could become a cross-platform framework. And it'll probably hit WinRT first and Metro. And you'll be able to use Win8 Metro interface and WinRT and be able to be in the marketplace on the tablet and in the new marketplace for the phone when that comes out. But I've heard that they've got up the garbage collection and that can lead to being able to compile different namespaces and you know, you can recreate common used things like a list and dictionary and things like that. So my sources on the inside, if they're correct, this next version,
it's too specific not to be you know.
they're either feeding me a line of smoke or I have good accurate rumor-based information. I've even heard it might be running a little faster than the current garbage collector you know and use in .NET. And that may be true, because if you optimize something for a specific task, such as we're just out to handle games, you can take advantage of things that you can't take advantage of if it was running generic apps. But I think it's going to live up to the official framework of Rainbow Dash.
What?
Oh, you didn't know that Sunburn? I mean, if you think about all the options that you could choose to endorse, Rainbow Dash is just concerned with, you know, speed and colors, rainbows, you know, so graphical power.
Isn't she kind of a jerk though?
I think they're all jerks.
Okay. Yeah.
I think all in their own way they are jerks, but I think that's going to be the next Sunburn's tagline, actually, is the official framework of Rainbow Dash.
No. My Little Pony does not have to be in everything.
Oh, see, I wasn't actually going to say MLP. I was just going to let people wonder what we were talking about. Let them Google it and find that
Sunburn be
world.
this magic brony-free zone on the internet, a haven for people who, you know, don't watch My Little Ponies.
My Little Ponies makes everything better.
There's too much of... It's possible to have too much of a good thing.
I think the Sunburn engine would be the perfect choice to render a 3D My Little Pony fighting game, if you were in fact working upon such. Not saying that anyone is, but...
There was a 2D fan-made
there was a
fighting
2D
game,
brawler. So if you were to go 3D, I think that would be the choice. I think you could gain some of the performance benefits and...
Or use the 2D.
Potentially, you know, cross-platform and everywhere. So, if you want to learn more about the Sunburning game engine,
you can get DMCA takedown notices everywhere for putting, you know, for running My Little Pony.
we would have an army of bronies, I think, rise to defend. You don't
Let
want to
us
upset...
not give them a common cause to rally around.
If you want to learn more about the Sunburning game engine, check out their website at synapsegaming.com.
I'm scared of what happens as My Little Ponies seeps into everything.
Just as the transformation takes place?
Everything, yes.
Can you just welcome every pony to the podcast?
That's what they would say.
That is what they would
For those who are interested, you know, the bronies out there among the fans, Netflix just added season 2. So you now have 52 episodes?
Yes.
52 episodes of My Little Pony on Netflix. So we're at the price of the subscription alone. Because, I mean, like if you rented them on iTunes, you have to pay per rental, right? And if you just go to Netflix, it's just one flat monthly fee. You watch them over and over and over again. Because if you're writing for the Wikipedia pages and the documentary, you need to be able to freeze frame and annotate every pony in there and what eye style they have. By the way, that's a thing. You go into the Wikipedia for the little My Little Pony Wikipedia, and they have a category on each little pony for eye style.
Are you talking about like the shape of the eyes themselves,
Yes,
or
the shape of the eyes themselves?
Colors, where the dot is in the eye, if it's a dot or a heart or a star, there are different kinds.
So there's basically like super groups of ponies that share hereditary properties in their eyes, I guess, or something. So that is genealogically mapped out, is what I'm saying.
Oh, internet.
Yes. Welcome anyone to the show
Who wasn't driven away by our conversation.
we're going to talk a lot, I think, today about Captain Dubstep. So this week...
You may want to look behind you.
Yeah. What are you doing back
She's about
there?
to pull something down.
Yeah, go back to mommy.
Come back here, baby girl.
Aha! Not
So-
there's stuff to pull off this desk.
No, she's coming back. She's a good girl.
There you go, you got out.
Give daddy a kiss and you
Can I
go
kiss
go
goodnight? Alright, hold on. Night kiss, okay. Duck your head. Alright,
Come here.
okay.
Let's go night night.
Go to mommy. Night night.
Come here. Let's
Is that good this time? Did it take that time? No? One more time? Okay.
Okay, child number 3. Let's go.
Jasmine the third. She's a third.
Baby child.
Ender's Game reference for everybody out there playing along with the home game. You know, you get your little bingo out, and it's like, that was My Little Pony reference. Of course, you all get that one. That's like
a
the
free
center.
space.
That's like the
Yes.
free space. Yes, back on track. So we did a lot of Captain Dubstep this week. I took off Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to bang out the level design, and really managed to get that done on Tuesday. Using my new Michael Vignal patented time management system of don't open your fucking email. That is it. Just don't open your email. Just don't open your email, Twitter, Facebook, or anything in which anyone can contact you. Sit down at the computer and open Visual Studio or the graphics program, and then like work on what you need to work on. And then you might think that no, I'm pretty on task and efficient.
You will be wrong.
You will be wrong. Give the vinyl patented system a few days, and you will be amazed at the amount of work that you get done when there's no way for somebody to interrupt you. Take your phones out of your pockets, turn them upside down so they can't blink at you or distract you. Just no distractions. Usually what I do is then around 11:30, like before lunch, then it's time to like, okay, you know, I've got that's billed, I can check this in, everything's good, let's just hit email, you know, and you know, doing that. The downside is I'm far less up to date on current news. I actually have to plan time now to read blogs and catch up on news.
In theory, I guess I could force you to like go back and like recategorize what you pay attention to, and like
It definitely has me wanting to go into my RSS feeds, where I used to think no big deal of following the 500 RSS feeds that I
Exactly,
follow,
yeah.
because, you know, I could bang them out pretty quick. And to now of like, okay, like a lot of the sites will repeat the same news, and it's like, okay, unless Develop is rebroadcasting the story, then I probably don't need to worry about it too much, you know, that kind of stuff. So I might go back in there at some point and tweak that. But so the level design I just cranked away on, and actually knocked out our overall level design for Captain Dubstep, which it's a Metroid game. It's not a Metroidvania. It's just fucking straight up Metroid. I hate that Metroidvania thing. Maybe just because I didn't play Castlevania when it
Yeah.
became Metroid-ish.
Well, I never really played the
I've
first
never
one.
played
I played
Beyond
the second
3.
one. And I played a little bit of the third one, so...
But 1 and 3 are straight side-scrolling platformers. And 2 is a side-scrolling platformer with this quasi-quest thing going on, and you backtrack a lot, but it wasn't, like, stretched to, like, even throw it, like, adventure or RPG at it. I mean, it was pretty basic. I loved 2. I thought 2 was awesome. I know I've seen rants online hating that game, but I thought it was pretty cool. I dug it.
Yeah.
But, like, Metroid, you know, it's like, wait, this is not a free-scrolling map. I'm not going everywhere, especially not in 1 and, you know, not so much in 3. But, the, new, so I just call it Metroid, but so I designed out the map that way, got that done, and, well, I guess I can cover this now. So I approached it basically by first, like, anytime I think that you're going to, you're heavily inspired by, or you're cloning, and in our case, this is a heavily inspired. We're not going out to remake a Metroid, but it's almost in the case of, like, okay, we have our ideas with Captain Dubstep, these are our ideas, and everything else gets basically like, well, what did Metroid do? And
Well,
do we have a reason to change that? Like, so lives came up. You talked about lives, you know, like,
Yeah.
and, you know, it's like, there's no lives in Metroid. No, we're not going to have lives. We're not, that's like the default. Like, that's the game we're parodying off. So, like, unless we have a reason to deviate from that, and it's not one of the things that we thought are critical to the way we're going to play our game, I think that's a good, you know, way to...
And putting in respawn points in place of... Because Metroid just started you back at the beginning, didn't it? Or am I...
you started at the beginning of the last elevator you went through.
Okay.
So, no, I guess it doesn't really count as our concept of respawn points. So, yeah, we did up it a little bit to where...
Like, it has some modern...
If you go through this zone, then you will respawn back in that zone without having to actively save or anything. Your player really won't know. It's kind of like when you die on a platformer and you just appear back. It seems kind of arbitrary where you appear, but I've tried to lay them out in the design level of like, okay, I expect you to die in this next sequence, but my challenge, since you don't have lives, is like you have to get from this point to this point before you'll be able to save. So like if you die halfway through this run, then yeah, that'll be your difficulty ramp. But you'll get as many shots at that run as you want, and you'll start right from the beginning of it. And then hopefully, you know, a run's not more than, 5 or 10 minutes of real insane, like thing. So we may add more of those, as we go along. But for right now, I kind of spaced those out. I went on since, like I said, to follow, the, design of Metroid. It's like, okay, well, how was the Metroid level design? Like, actually, down to how was it rendered? How was it stored? Like, I don't know, like, the genesis of the design. Like, what was in the designer's head? What was the plan? But I can, like, the code has been disassembled and looked at and hacked. So I can, like, break that down. And, interesting, Metroid is not actually a 16 by 16 tile game, even though the tiles are 16 by 16.
Really?
The tiles are 8 by 8, grouped into sets of 4, and then they were placed on the map by referencing a group of 4.
Okay.
So basically, the tile sheet was made as an 8 by 8 system, and then this made a tile, this made a square, this made a block.
Which I guess makes sense because, like, the bullets, and I'm assuming, without going back and looking at it, like the bullets, the power-ups, there were a lot of things that were 8 by 8.
Yeah, there's some things that were like, well, like the energy thing I think is like a weird dimension.
Right.
But that kind of stuff you would just assume like, well, you just got a sprite sheet. It's not a tile engine.
Yeah.
But it may mean that they didn't do pixel-based collision. They may have just done an 8 by 8 cell collision. I mean, at that point, you're pretty small, so...
And one of the things we ended up pulling out this week was the pixel-based collision with the terrain, which... I don't know if you want to go into that now or if I'm, like, cutting you off mid-thought.
Well, no, so I was going to wrap up and say on there, and I'll link into this article. I found this great article that broke down, like, how because basically it was for, like, if you want to mod Metroid, this is, like, how the map data would have to be formatted. And basically, I have this one 32-bit array, 32 by 32, so 32-bit values, 32 elements in the array, that represents the map. And the map on each bit basically set a value to say, I may be wrong, it may not actually be 32 bits. It may be a lot less. Maybe 8-bit values in a 32 array of 8-bit values. It was an array of 32, so they had 32 total rooms.
Okay, so each of these was a room.
Yeah, and then, quick, what's FF? 002FF.
255?
255, yeah, so that's a 4-bit then.
Okay.
If they went signed, then that would be 8. But yeah, so they could put in a value, a hex value, it showed on there 0 to FF, on there, and they essentially defined a room sheet. So they have a sheet so that each room, and this is the thing, Metroid actually uses a very similar system to Legend of Zelda, the original, where you actually, when you got to the room boundary, then you went to the next room, okay?
Right.
In Metroid, it's the same thing. You are in rooms. It just free scrolls instead of waiting for you to get to the boundary to show you the next room. But Samus...
bigger units of data, basically.
Well, no. It's a screen. It's the exact same size. It's the Legend of Zelda engine underneath going on. I don't know if it's how much code it shares, but as far as the map hackers have gotten into it, it's like, yeah, this is very similar to Legend of Zelda, where you have this big grid and the rooms are laid out on the grid, and then you're always in one room at a time, and the rooms can be reused. So you can actually have room 12, okay? And, let's say room 12 is, where you got the start with the door and the little ledge and then a bat that comes down, okay? You see that in a couple different times. And it might be an 8-bit value. I think it's stored, not a 4-bit value, because they also store in the palette of the room.
Right.
So when it's laid out, they basically say, like, okay, this is the room, and it references the tile sheet, but then they reference the palette colors to apply to that tile. So it's this real interesting way, and it's a really compact way of storing the levels. But at the same time, it's pretty easy to design the room because they could just go in, like, once they set their 18 rooms, now they just, place all 18 rooms throughout the map and...
Flip the palette, flip the enemies that spawn.
Flip the palette, no, the enemies were attached to the
Really?
rooms. So, like, and if you notice this, if you play Metroid again, which I started playing after we had our dubstep meeting, and got freaking far. I was surprised, like, how much I was remembering and where to go to. I found... like this guy online, I knew that we used to get, now I'm sidetracking a bit, that we used to get the Various suit. I read Nintendo Power, there was a hack, there was a way you get the Various suit before you got the high jump boots. So, the Various suit is the power suit, that's the one that takes half damage.
Right.
And essentially you go into this double door room and you shoot up, and then there's like 5 blocks that'll destroy, and then you have to jump up and time it right so that you get in that room. But then, like, as soon as you walk to go towards the door, which is also above, it's a good jump height above the room floor, you fall in a pit of blocks that you can pass through, right? And so it's like, yeah, you can't make this till you get high jump. And I remember there's a way to get around that. And then I went on Google, because I could not remember for the life of me. I was screwing around, and, I'm like, this is too far a bomb jump. Where you just, like, set the bombs and make yourself walk up the wall.
Vaguely. I did not play much Metroid.
Oh, okay,
I played a little bit, but I never got that far.
So there was a thing you could do where you could set 3 bombs at once, but you could time it so that, like, the second bomb you would set in air, and then, like, the first bomb
and they weren't
on the ground,
gravity.
the second bomb in the air, the third bomb on ground, then you would, like, bounce and double bounce, and then you could get a rhythm going, and you could wall walk yourself up. It was hard for me to get that going again. Although I think my controllers may need to just be cleaned too. I don't know if the button responses were laggy. I went on there and I went on Google and I found this guy who, like, did something I didn't realize you could do. I had never done this. But he blew up a bomb, and then as the bomb exploded, stood up, and in that moment jumped. And basically the jump counted from, because he was in a ball, the point in which he stood up, which he was already in air from the bomb, and then so he basically boosted his height. And he managed to bomb walk up a bit, and then time this jump just perfectly and get the Various suit. And even in his video of how to do it, it took him like 5 minutes to get it right. And comments are just like, man, that's freaking amazing. Like, I can't get this at all and all that. And I'm like, I know we did not do that. And then I eventually found like, oh wait, this is what we did. There's a creature going back and forth, and if you've got the ice gun, you can get the creature to go up the little blocks if you time it right, and then freeze it, and then jump off of it, and then you can get the fairy suit. But other than that, I mostly was able to collect all the power-ups before going in to take down the first boss. And actually, I took down the second boss. I took down Riley, the second boss, before I took down the first boss. Just hit him out of order, and I thought that was the one that had the fake boss because I took it out so easily. And it was like, no, that was the real boss. I'm like, man, I remember this shit much harder.
Oh yeah, I don't think I ever got to any of the mini bosses in Metroid, and you know, the point to me didn't seem to be the mini bosses. It was trying to figure out how to get where you're supposed to go. Like that was just kind of an extra.
Well, yeah, the mini bosses, you had to kill both of those in order to get the bridge to open up to go to the Mother Brain.
Well, I don't mean like an extra, like you didn't have to do it, but like that wasn't as much the point of the game as just, you know, all the
exploration and finding the stuff. So reading that map, that kind of like, okay, I want to design our map then based on the concept of screens. And I sort of I extrapolated the Metroid 32 by 32 map to our dimensions. Now, because we've extrapolated, so we're going with a 48 by 48 base tile set, which gives us 15 tiles high at 720p native resolution. Which Metroid, the original one, is 15 tiles high. Now, Metroid, the original one, is 4 by 3, so I think we're 27 tiles wide. So we're a bit wider than Metroid was taller. But I took our screen, 27 by 15 tiles, whereas Metroid is 15 by 16 tiles, or whatever 4 by 3 works out. Or maybe just 15 by 15 in square, and they just don't render a frame. I think that's what they do, actually. I think there's like a frame. Like when you play it on your LCD TV in 4 by 3 mode, you just realize how much of the title safe zone they didn't even put any graphics in. So I extrapolated that out to our 16 by 9 dimensions using the same thing out, and like if the Metroid map was planned on a 32 by 32 grid, then I will put ours on a 32 by 32 grid, reasonably filling it in as I go, and then I should roughly have an equivalence of Metroid in dimensions. You know, and I thought that was a good way of guessing, you know, to put the right amount of time in the game, because you could take. So playing Metroid last night, I think I played it 2 hours. I think it was about my time, about there. And I was 2/3 of the way through the game. So maybe 3 hours I would have finished it. And that's like a great play length. That's a perfect, you know, hit 3-4 hours. That'd be a good play length if we come out around that. And if it takes a little longer, it takes a little longer. But, you know, to find, it looks like it's going to be a lot of work. But that's the guideline that I used. Again, going back, just, you know, look at the game you're planning and just, you know, extrapolate from there and, you know, just go with their numbers. I don't have reason to come up with my own numbers. I don't have a good feel with a platformer of how many platforms I should add to, how many rooms, how many screens I should do. Now, I made an error when I first drew out the map. And I drew out the map based on 720 by 1280, which is 720p native resolution. But we're not at 720p, we're at 15 by 27 tiles because it doesn't work out. 1280 is not an even unit. We actually have 26.5 tiles wide, right? So we got like half a tile. And when I laid out my screen, now my screen dimensions, I can't one-to-one map to our level code because they're off. And then so I attempted to go in and stretch my drawing appropriately, and that worked horribly wrong. Things, not that I ruined the math there, but that Fireworks, what I was using, does crap at the pixel level, and when it resized it, it would say the block was the appropriate width, but it actually was in fact not the right width. 1 second. Excuse me. That was great for the camera too. Go check that out if you're listening to the audio podcast. So I resized it, but then I basically had to go back and relay out. Now, I had used Fireworks, and I had vectored each screen as a box so that I could quickly just snap to grid, you know, made a grid that lined up and moved them around. When I resized it, the effect was I had given myself much more horizontal space than we actually had. Because it's like I think I said, okay, let's plan it at 26, round it down, because 26 will fit on one screen at a time, 27 will not. So we got to round down, so it's going to shrink in a little bit. But then it did more than just shrinking. Like I had like tiles off in space, like when I got the map resized to the appropriate dimensions. And so for that, I went in and took out like 8 rooms wide is what it ended up being. Like I just found like 8 rooms in the horizontal thing so I could collapse the map. And then when I got it up and running and playing it, I'm glad that I pulled that out. Like it's a big map when you sit down to play it and you put her in that. I do need to do some screenshot comparisons of Metroid to Captain Dubstep, the sprites. Because and I'm kind of segueing off of the level design. I made our notes on the level design. I mapped out our level progression. I laid out items such that you'd have to go here to get this item before you could go to this zone, so that we could have, even though it's a free-flowing game, like technically you go anywhere, you really can't. Like you won't be able to cross this spike until you get the jetpack that'll allow you to fly over these spikes. So we can make that side much more difficult because we expect the player to be more acclimated to, the gameplay mechanics and vary it up. And even if we don't increase difficulty, we can change the rules of the game at that point. We can be like, introduce some units that do things units didn't do before just to spice it up. But we do have a set progression, so we do have a level 1, level 2, level 3, even though it's a full-size map. 2, all right, we're using tiled map editor. From just Google tiled. I think it's mapeditor.org or something, mapsomething.org.
Yeah, it's not actually tiled.
Yeah, map leveler or something. But it's tiled. If you Google tiled, you'll find it. We're using Nick Gravlin's tiled lib right now, and I have, on our list of like, we kind of need to rewrite this. No shame on Nick here. I mean, it's up and it works, but it has some limitations. And also, he's used a lot of object-oriented, and it's using a lot of object references and doing a lot of boxing, and running it, I think, we're seeing on the order of about 1,000, or 600. We're seeing about 600 objects created due to boxing, a frame, but we're not leaking memory, so it's not impacting the garbage collection. So it's... You look at it and you're like, okay, this could be done better with arrays than is actually done here. And we could optimize it a little bit. And I think I could do a little bit better job the way it's like finding a level region to do that. Plus, you have to do a lot of manual conversion to work with your tile level.
The map object layers.
Yeah, the units aren't always consistent. So sometimes it's real world coordinates and sometimes it's tile coordinates when you're trying to like deal with it. And I'm like, all right, I hate the way you have to cast objects, you have to cast a tile layer, again, boxing. So you have to cast a tile layer to a, object layer to see, you have to cast a layer to a tile layer or an object layer to see what kind it is. And it's like, I get the object-oriented inheritance of it, but I would just rather have tiled array and object arrays, and then just have a Z order if, that gives me the indexing order but these are preference issues, and so we've like put them on the back burner for now. The up and running, to the engine's credit, and to that aside, we have a 48 by 48 grid tile. I think it's 600 tiles or 350 something tiles by 600 and something tiles, or something insane. It's 40,000 pixels by like 28,000 pixels. I tried to resize the map, which I designed in 1/12 scale, and I tried to resize the map to scale so that I could use it as the background in tiled, and then just color in the region so I could get going and make sure I was anchored in the right place when I tried to do the conversion. And Fireworks was like, the fuck you will. You will not pump in a value that large in my dialog box. I think, you shall not pass. And I was like, all right, well, fine, I went to paint.net. Paint.net's like, scale by 12,000%? Sure. It's going to be a 3.5 gig image. Are you okay with that? I'm like, yes, I have 12 gigs on this system. Let's go. I'm not even going to stop my RDO from streaming music. That's how confident I'm in. Well, my entire desktop crashed to black. Like, all I saw was solid black. Now, in my second monitor in the top right, I have a clock and a calendar. And all I saw of those were silhouettes. Just little white lines that kind of outlined them. And then I had the Windows 7 orb in the bottom left corner on the main menu. I could bring up the Windows orb and the start menu was still there. I could hover over the taskbar with my invisible mouse and see the pop-up of the Windows 7 where it shows you what the screens look like. That was working. I couldn't control Alt-Delete. I couldn't control Shift-Escape. Because I could get to the taskbar, I could close the apps and then just hit Enter, hoping that the default was yes, save progress. And then when I rebooted and I came back up, Paint.net had made a file on my desktop of basically, you have violated me, and this is the tale of the wrongness that has occurred. And, it's just this crash log, that was sitting there of like what went wrong. So I ended up just taking the top corner of the map, scaling that to get my start mode. And then I could copy paste rooms in, because what I did is I color coded the rooms for our design purposes, and then made those colors into tiles, and then made the background layer of our tiled map be this color coded region so that you could really easily know what zone you were working in when you were laying the tile sheet down. But this insane map, it will crash. Fireworks won't open it. It will crash a desktop. You can't zoom all the way out and see it all at once in tiled. It's not possible.
It stops you.
Tiled,
it's
if you try to
level.
export it as an image, tiled sits there for a minute and then doesn't do anything. Like, it goes for a second of like, I'm processing, and then it's back and you can edit, but there's no file. Like, it got to a certain point and went like,
Nope.
oh, fuck this. I don't know what the hell he's asking for. Which is kind of disheartening. I'm going to see if there's a way we can get it rendered out. And because it's like at some point, if we got popular and we wanted to put up like, here is the map, like they have all these in-game rendered maps of our classic NES games.
I wonder if you could do it in pieces.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like, can we break it out and render it like that? But no, you can't render the whole thing out. We're up and running right now. I think we ran it earlier today, and now we have different enemies up and running. And
we have the Spriter support.
And we have Spriter support added in too, up and running. We're using 16 megs of RAM.
Yep.
We're using no RAM. And the frame rate is golden. We're not using a quarter of the 1/60th of a second to process everything and to draw everything. So all the complaints that I've had aside about the object-oriented, I have to step back and go, okay, solve performance problems you have, not the theories you don't, and this is not, the tiled lib engine is not a performance problem.
And I think our issues will, if there are issues, they will come up in playtest, because our fear is we're looking at loading one tiled map for the entire, and one set of sprites.
Yes, we have no load screens, no segmented areas. We're loading everything at once.
So basically, if any of these
once you get to the start screen, you will load nothing else. Everything will be there.
There's no point where we can just throw in a garbage collection manually and handle it. So,
we might be able to code one at the start menu and just like once the start menu comes up, throw in a GC collect just to say, hey, go ahead and take the chance right now. But yeah, I really want the game to come up, go right to the start menu with a start or continue, and you just hit start. You're playing the game. That's it. Nothing else in between. I've already told you I don't want any tutorial, any level, any calling anything out, because you won't even be able to shoot at the beginning. You'll be able to run and jump.
Are we going to have, like, you go into the help menu, you can get, like, the controller
What help
diagram?
menu?
Well, if you hit start, like, surely you get a menu.
Start will save your progress or exit your game and go back to the continue.
I don't know. I think that's gonna piss people off.
Don't care.
Yeah. Don't. I think we need to hold that limit. I've let go of the UI limit right now. We'll have to come back post stream build play and get down to the no UI because that's going to take more intricate design to make that work. But the game itself, I don't think you need a tutorial on any of it. I think there's none of that in Metroid.
Well,
and yes, you had a manual, but come on, nobody fucking read that manual.
Well, no, but
you only read that manual if you had siblings and it wasn't your turn.
You had fewer buttons though, and you didn't have we're gonna have a jetpack.
Yeah, no, that's true. We're gonna have a lot more things, but you will get them at such a paced out interval that you will pick something up and then look for. And again, if we do the Metroid thing of here's the item, it's glowing, I can pick it up because it's glowing. I picked it up. I heard the awesome music. That means I got something new. I'm going to start testing out my buttons, and there's nothing to prevent you from testing out the buttons. There's no punishment for exploration of the controller. And then, most of the things we've talked about, even having a couple alternate ways of, the X button and the trigger button will fire the gun.
Yeah, the thing I'm looking at is not that I agree that you don't want to overdose on tutorial, and that is very annoying, but I think we'll have to find some sort of middle ground. It may just be popping up a message that says you got the jetpack, so you know exactly what this thing on your back actually is. You got the drop grenade. Just because, and I think this is one of those issues that may come out. We really need to play test this because, the theory may not stand up against,
People are just playing it wrong. That's just. Yeah, we'll come back to that definitely. But that'll be post stream build play type stuff of where that ends up. So get all the level stuff done, and then Wednesday was a lost day because I opened my email, and now I intended to open my email because I intended to get done code stock stuff. But that got me in the email cycle, and it's man, once you're in there, there's always an email to answer, to address, and go back and type up and, and things like that. And plus they're code stock ones, so they involve answering, more complex questions for sponsors or something and, those kinds of things. And, so I wanted to make sure all of that was there, and done. And that, that was taken care of and not going to be pressing down, so I could focus the rest of the week on, Captain Dubstep and get back to that and not have code stock get too far out. And then Wednesday night, I had a meeting at the Technology Cooperative on, sponsorship, fundraising drive and things like that. And after that meeting, I got back and, at this point, I was kind of on the way home going, we still don't have Captain Dubstep. I don't have a Captain. Why have I not put a video up? Because it's still at same placeholder graphics. We don't have these graphics up in game, and we have some concept and some stuff, but it's all pieces. It's not. Some of the stuff is not ready for game yet, and all right, I am just going to take a stab at doing this at pixel art. I'm going to go from no artist experience, can't draw for shit, and just dive right into pixel art. And I think I will probably do a blog post on this. I think I reasonably came up with a decent looking character. Now, it's weird, and it may be weird because we've been using such a large character as a placeholder. She seems small in that world.
Yes.
But she's two tiles tall, and so is Samus. So maybe I need to get her side by side in a scaled screenshot and just compare, have I made an error in math? Because Samus was a 16 by 16 pixel wide, she was 2 pixels tall, scale it up, we're 48, so my Captain Dubstep is 96 pixels tall, a little shy of 96 pixels, she's just a little under that, and, 94 pixels or something, and, scaling her up, we have 15 tiles on screen, so we are in the same ratio of Metroid, just playing it last night, playing Metroid the other night, and, having that large on there, it seems like she's smaller than Samus was, but I don't know. Maybe it's because we've had such a long time with such a larger character.
And I think that's probably it, because she, like, the run animation doesn't, like, you aren't trying to use a particular size of sprite, no larger, no smaller, so it's not really the chunky looking sprites. So I think that's kind of what it is.
In chat, Bionic was asking what was the main takeaway from it. Do you remember? What was he talking about? What was that in response to? What was the main takeaway from what? Catch on that. Go on.
The chat, DDC talk on Plants vs. Zombies about
That's not even related to the podcast. Okay, never mind.
about tutorials.
The tutorials. Yeah, I saw where they said on there, like, know how to play menu item. So these are the main points. Don't have a how to play menu item. Only have 7 words on any screen at any time. Context sensitive help. And don't say anything unless they keep failing. So,
It looks like you suck at this. Please look at our tutorial menu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't even think we need a how to play, just like, here, the jetpack or the drop grenade. Once the person knows that there is something called this and, this happens when I hit the button, then yeah.
But, for our drop grenade, like, its use is not going to be evident at the onset. It's going to be a little puzzly to solve, like, like the time slow bullet might be more obvious when you pick it up. Because you get this time slow gun, and in the next room we'll have some guys to shoot with it that are moving in a fashion that will slow them down,
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, I get this. This slows things down as it passes through it. But the drop grenade slows everything down on screen, and the use of that is almost like, I can't get past these laser turrets. And so, trying that, will almost unlock that. But, I think we can look at the level and redesign it in such a way of, like, it's kind of like the Super Mario, right? Like, here comes this turtle at you. The only thing I can do is jump.
Yeah.
Either jump over it and ignore him, in which case you're fine, or jump on him, and, see what happens. Like, it sets the player up to, like, jump on something.
Yeah. And also, like I said, I think there's a continuum between giving no information and giving too much information, where we'll probably figure out where that is in playtest. One of the things we want to do is we actually want to associate these names. We want the player to be able to associate the name with something. Not like, obviously you don't want to go, Mega Man!
Yeah.
You got the drop grenade, but...
Yeah, so, on this vein, though, of, like, this kind of, like, how well these old games did it, and do you need the manual and all that, I don't know when it's going to start hitting the air. I may get to record this Sunday, but I may record it, this week. I'm going to start recording some new episodes for GameMarx to go on the web. The title of the series, which will be Rachel and Hannah Play, which is my 2 older daughters, 11 and 8. 11 getting ready to turn 12. And, Hannah's 9 now. She's had her birthday. So...
Whatever, don't even notice anymore.
So the thing is like, I'm going to have them play classic Nintendo games on the Nintendo. With no explanation. I'm going to pick the games, set them up, and it's going to be their thing. And then, it's going to be like, are these games really these perfect game design things that we put on the shelf and say, look, in all this constraint, they produce better design than we do today?
Yeah.
Or did we simply have nothing better, so we played it until it became fun? Because that's possible, too.
It's possible. Also, remember we had Nintendo Power. Like, you don't think
I
of
did.
that?
I don't think Cicely was exposed to Nintendo Power.
Not for
I did.
everything. I had a couple of issues. But
I still got my Nintendo Power jacket.
Benjamin
I
remembered
don't think I
that we
ever
subscribed
paid
for
that
like
much.
a year. When we were really into it, Mom let us subscribe for a year, but that was it.
But
I mean, some of them were like epic, like the Super Mario 3 issue. I don't know if you got that one.
Yeah, we did.
that just like everything was broken down for
Yeah.
Super Mario 3, and it was insane.
It was like the first couple of worlds, though, wasn't it?
No, it was an entire issue, all worlds.
Okay. Yes. Okay. They did come out with like
was a
the
yellow-
strategy guide.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. I don't think I ever got that one.
So
but I
we
got
were
some
in
other
at like the
ones.
top tier subscription level because I even have somewhere the pin that you
Right.
got that's got the 3 gold wings on it for the initial 3-year
I
subscription.
don't know that my
and-
parents wanted to make that kind of commitment to it. Like I subscribed for years. Like I subscribed until all they were doing was N64, and I didn't have an N64, so I dropped it. But
I mean, some of them we still have our stack of Nintendo Powers. I don't think we've gotten rid of them. They'll be all destroyed. Covers got ripped off on those.
yeah.
But that was back in the day where they had the good, square bindings too. So
Yeah.
they may kind of go, yeah, it'd be interesting to still go look through those, or let like halfway through the episode, like if I've got a Nintendo Power that covered, say, Metroid, like okay, now you can no internet. You can read this Nintendo Power, this very crafted marketing magazine,
It is crafted for marketing, but it also gave you a lot of information that you take for granted. The other thing is, I think you're right. Like, we probably have shorter attention spans now than back then, for a variety of reasons. And also, like, I got maybe 2 Nintendo games a year, birthday and Christmas. Now,
My mom
well,
worked.
yeah, we did that.
My mom worked
did
at
that too,
not
so.
KB Toys. What was the other one that used to be in the mall?
I remember.
There
what
was
you're talking
2,
about.
and she didn't work at KB Toys, which is the more popular mainstream one. Something World or something? I don't remember. It was another toy store. This is back
It had a
before you even
similar
had.
name too.
It was back before you even had like Babbage's and like actual
Yeah.
computer stores, and that's where the Nintendo games were sold in the toy stores. And my mom worked there. This is back in the days where like she could take Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, and like 4 copies came in, and I took one for my son. So that's not even on the shelf. So like 3 copies go on the shelf. Well, 2 because another person who called up mom, she just held it back, and like you're not even allowed to do that at a GameStop. Like, if you work there, you're the last one to get,
Yeah.
the game or something like that. So, and plus she had like her discount. So like, I think Nintendo games were still like $50-$60, cartridge games. But I think she got them for like $40 or $30, with her discount, with that. So that was cool. And we got a ton. I mean, there's still like key games that we managed to miss. Like Battletoads, and after a while there was the like, you don't play the games you got, thing, and like
Yeah.
I'm done with those games,
I don't know, man. Like I played. I don't know how many times I went through like Chrono Trigger. Got myself up to level 75 just because you could do the New Game Plus. I don't think I would, unless it was something like Dragon Age or Skyrim. Do not think I would ever do something like that now, because it's just like you can move on to something else, and it's so easy to get new games now. So
yeah, and you have like a list of a bunch of things to move on to,
and I actually
it's
have disposable income now, whereas as a
Right.
child I didn't. So.
right. Anyway, so I'm gonna have them play these games, and basically like, let's see how kids of today, because there might be some things like you just can't unsee. Like, there's been
Yeah.
involvements in platformers and games that they've played, because the girls are gamers. They do play games, and it's like, yeah, that's a horrible way to do it, and they didn't know better at the time, but
Well,
So-
and a lot of it, there's only so much you can, like if you look at the sequelitis, like what are you looking at?
keep going.
Okay, if you look at sequelitis, like the Mega Man episode, or Mega Man X episode, he breaks everything down, and
I thought I might have my pen in here. That's what I was looking for.
okay, and some of it is legitimate, but at some point, like, you deconstruct it so much that you're seeing things that aren't there, and you can't come in as like the unbiased observer, like what
Right,
you're trying to do.
right.
So
So I'm not gonna set them up or explain. I may just, set the stage of like, this was a huge game, or this is a game I liked, but I don't think it
Right.
was huge, right? Because there could be some of these, like Desert Commander. I don't know if you ever played it. It was
I
a
want to say I did.
turn-based war strategy game where you had little bitty tiles.
I either
and they
played
had-
that or Nobunga's.
You had fuel and you could move them out. You could select your army at the beginning. You chose the map, and then you got like a set number of units, but you could like take away 2 bombers, give yourself 2 more fighters, whatever you want. And the enemy AI was limited to just following the road straight to you with almost everything at once. It was kind of the way I played. I played a ton of that game. I don't think it was that popular.
No.
I just think it was like, I kind of like a depth strategy game like that. So, with that said, you know, I'll play them up and just let them play, and you'll get like kids today, you know, it may be a little funny of like, haha, you know, the kids can't cut it, or they're just like, what the heck is, you know, like this, or
Wrong
maybe
with you, Dad?
maybe some of them work, you know, maybe some of the things work. So I think it's good GameMarx content, because as game designers, it's kind of like a bellwether check, you know, a gut check of like, okay, we've analyzed this stuff to death. We think the movement system of Zelda is just pure genius. But like, you give a kid Zelda today, like that's the one I'm scared. I'm going to save that one back.
Yeah.
But The Legend of Zelda, right? Not Link to the Past. Because Link to the Past sort of put you on a path, right? Like,
Yes.
you didn't want to explore, because exploring was like, oh, wow, I'm getting my butt kicked by these things all of a sudden. Like, I need to go to this safe road and follow this. But think about it. I don't know how we got to level World 1. Because my
That is
mom
true.
took the map away from us. I didn't know for a month that the game Legend of Zelda came with a map with some areas and how to get to level World 1 marked out. And then like, you know, oh, this other thing over here and all that. Until somebody at school was talking about it, and they were like, well, it's on the map. Just go to this point on the map. And I'm like, the map's a little gray box, man. Like, it's a dot. Like, I don't know how you tell. Do you find a map? You find an overworld map or something? Like, no, it came with the game. Like, I don't have that. And I came home that day, and I literally, like, I asked my mom, like, you know, was there a map that came with the game we didn't get? And she went, oh, yes. And she goes into the kitchen cupboard and opens up, like, the top, like, china drawer and, like, pulls out the map. And, like, I thought you guys would have more fun if you had to explore more. And, like, I don't think I knew the words fuck you at that moment, but, like, they were there, man. There was rage. I had internet rage before there was the internet.
I was going to say, I guess I can understand. You just paid $50 for a game. Like, those kids are going to enjoy that game.
Yes.
But,
RC Pro Am. He mentioned, yeah, that's an awesome, that's another one. The control scheme of that, this is kind of what chat was talking about. It's like, it might be, Return to Adventure Mountain brought it up. Are you thinking about the control scheme? GA Tech Grad, mentioned RC Pro Am, but, it's like, yeah, the control scheme of that was hard, I guess, in today's thinking, but it seemed natural. Like, I don't think of it as hard, but that's not because I played it when it came out, and like, we didn't have twin stick analog.
and you've played a lot more games since then, so you've probably found one that feels more natural, whereas that, again, you had time to, stick with learning it until it did feel natural.
So it'll be interesting. It'll be an interesting series. So as you said, we moved on to Spriter. We talked about this tool last week. We've moved on to Spriter, and we have Spriter up and running. Did you fix, or did you, did they give you source code for the importer?
Oh yeah, the code, and I need to go back and look up which thread it was in. It was like in what support do you want to see or something like that in the main forum. So they're not to the point of actually themselves building an XNA. Because I think it was
Content
provided by
importer,
someone else.
yeah. So a content
But
pipeline tool
it was
for
just a
Spriter.
Visual Studio project.
So Spriter, again, lets us load up our pixel art as components. So you'll see this when I make the post on drawing Captain Dubstep. I drew the silhouette of her. And I just, essentially my approach as completely brand spanking new to design was I found some reference images of females, for like plotting 3D and stuff.
Right, running.
No. Just standing there, like standing arms out or standing arms, aside from multiple angles. And I took the one that I wanted from the side. And basically shrunk that down to 96 by 96 because it's pixel art. So you need to go to the native resolution right off the bat because you can't scale pixel art. It looks like crap and you'll have a lot of cleanup work if you try. Right. And I scaled down the resolution to that, and then I basically traced the kind of the outline of the scale, which looked like shit at that resolution. So I kind of had to judge where I thought, that gave me a basic outline of a female character. And of course she looked like a whore because they put her in high heels in these all of them. They put her in high heels, and, give her big tits and ass. And, like, you can't just find, like, a more realistic looking thing.
This wasn't a photo. This was actually a 3D rendering.
Well, it was a drawing, or it was a reference drawing, like you would have to, like if you were doing in 3D Studio Max, you would load up the reference drawing of the anatomy to plot out your objects and kind of shape and sculpt. Or even like sketch it, like if you just wanted a guide to look at the female anatomy while you sketched. The problem is like nobody does like realistic proportions on these, or at least wasn't coming back in Google. These were all like idealized proportions and things like that, and I've been very upfront of like I don't want these Barbie figures for Captain Dubstep. Now some of the designs and the comps that we have back, like there was points where she looked too much like a dude and lacked that, and like no, she can have curves, we're just not going to have cleavage, right? No, we're not going to have exposed cleavage. She's going to be wearing proper armor,
and the armor may give us some trouble there because that is going to bulk out.
And so I kind of sketched her with armor on. So the dimensions she's at, although I think because she looks so skinny now, so what's going to happen at this point is, Cicely's going to texture her now. So I've locked in and I can do the animations in Spriter because I then made, like, this is the arm, this is the hand, this is the, the foot, the leg, the thigh and all that. So I can take it into Spriter and then animate it, which that was done by looking at a run cycle animation and basically mimicking that. Now, Spriter is still very beta and got to the point where I found it easier to do the second half of my run cycle, which the second half of your run cycle is identical to the first half of your run cycle, except the left and the right side are switched, right?
Right.
And I found it easier to just open up the damn XML file that it generates, hand edit that in Visual Studio, cut and paste around XML frames, and coordinate systems, and then load it back up in Spriter and make sure I did everything correctly, or like change the Z ordering in Spriter, and tweak, the exact order or the exact positioning of frames, because I was running into bugs and issues with copying frames and things like that. Spriter, so at the moment we're using Spriter, we're not using Spriter for Captain Dubsteps because I made a sprite sheet, because Spriter can export PNG frames, and then I went into graphic scale and took those exports real quick and made it into a sprite sheet so that we could load it in and replace our current sprite sheet. Graphics Gale has a lot of issues exporting 32-bit PNGs. So it will do an alpha channel, and it will do a 32-bit PNG and treat it as an alpha pixel color, but it's just doing the old school, I'm going to replace this color with transparency, even when it's outputting a 32-bit PNG. It's just really saying like, hey, this is the alpha channel.
So basically,
this pixel is alpha. So what happens is all of the edges artifacted to high hell, like they would in the GIF days. And, I was like, okay, once we get into Spriter, the Xbox will actually be doing the rotation of the sprites, and it will anti-alias it appropriately, and we'll be fine. So that I'm not worried about. We had artifacting in our test one. At this point, like I said, since we handed it off. Oh, so what I did after I traced it and she kind of looked like a whore, the second step was I grabbed the transform tool and just stretched her. Like added 40 pounds by like horizontally stretching her. And then after I did that, I actually just started sculpting. I actually just started with the eraser tool and the pen tool, taking off a little here, add a pixel or two here, zoom out, zoom in, change the pixels around, Basically, all I'm trying to do is get the outline to look right. I'm not worried about where the boots start and end and things like that. I just want the silhouette done. And now, I can hand it to Cicely and then she can, take the graphics approach of like, doing the boots and all that. But Now it's a very color inside the lines approach, so I think it's a little bit easier. This might be a good way. This is a good way for me to approach it, and I think I could do some more sprites for us this way, but it may not be good for an artist. Like, an artist may still want to go in and like, no, I'm going to draw a face, and then draw a chest, and then draw a body, you know, rather than this, I'm going to draw an outline and then just kind of sculpt it like clay until it looks right.
Well, I don't know. For something like Spriter, I guess it might make sense because you're, you know, you're going to have to do those individual pieces anyway, and they have to fit together, and it would be kind of the equivalent of, I don't know, like when you're doing, like tiles that have to repeat. Like, you shift it up, and you know, there's something you can do in GIMP. I know that works.
So
like that.
now, what I will say is, like, doing pixel art, it is real easy to get too close to that image. So, like, you go look at, like, Samus, right? And, like, her legs are damn thin, you know, all those sprite sheets. But, that's, like, if you fatten it up, if you add more to her leg, it's way too fat. And a lot of it, you know, for me, it came down to, like, that makes her ass look too big. Now her ass has no definition. Now her ass is too big. Now it has no definition. It's like one pixel. You know,
some of those problems will be fixed when you actually get the pixel art in there.
Well, I mean, just for the silhouette, like, it's not going to change like how big her ass is.
It's not, but it's going to kind of.
You could do a little bit of shading, but I mean, a lot of it really comes down to like, this pixel is either colored in or it's not. Right. You do not have a choice of like 0.5. You know, you can't, you know, get the exact amount you want.
I think it'll take the edge off so that, you know, you could take it out and still. It's kind of like, you know, the whole reason they gave Mario a mustache was so that he would have, because they couldn't really put a mouth.
Yeah.
They couldn't put the details. So.
Yeah. And like, if you zoom in and you look at that, you're like, it's just one dark block. That's all it is, you know? And it's like, I see a mustache in that? That's crazy, you know? But, you know, done right, it's interesting.
We had imagination back then.
Yeah, again, it may have been like, you know, we made it awesome because that was the only choice, you know? And compared to the Atari 2600...
It was awesome.
It was amazing.
You didn't even think about it until you saw pictures of Mario, and then you like the drawings, and like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Now. I can see it now, yeah. So, the other thing that we did, we ran over the list, and I think our roles for the next few weeks are pretty much going to be, you're lead developer at this point on the project, you're lead coding, because we're code heavy, and we actually have a lot of the code kind of done, you know, I mean, it's more lacking on graphics and content than it is on code. Code is down to like fiddling with like how this jump will work and tweaking how this jetpack will behave, and
on the basics, yes and no. I think when we get towards the end of it, we may find that there's a lot of polish we need to come back in and do. Actually, I think a lot of my coding at this point is going to be getting the enemies to work exactly as they should, but the great thing about...
Yes, I mean, they're behavioral tweaks, they're scripting tweaks, you know?
But the great thing about the fact that we have AI, well, maybe not, because the enemies are... A lot of that's going to be hard-coded. The great thing about getting the pixel art in and then getting the level and the progression finished is now all this stuff it's kind of written in stone. It's not just...
Right, and you have concrete things to code against.
Yeah.
And you're like, I know this is going to have to work this way, and maybe I don't even have the art for it, or it's designed out, but I know how it's going to have to work, so I can go ahead and leave some parameters here, but make assumptions on that. So you're going to be handling that. Cicely is she's finishing up our box art, so that we can get box art up, because I think we're going to have that for the competition. And we just need it for game marketing in general.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that we need, this is going to be on, is character art. Doing some of our characters.
I need to finish animating the spikes, because I've got them. I've got it stepped out. I just need to finish animating it.
Yeah. So we got to animate some of that stuff to get in some of the creature type stuff. I may take over and do some of the creature type stuff now too, because after doing Captain Dubstep, I think I can do some things and help there. I think I could take the open source guy, and I think I can make him an enemy that we use, because I mean he is an okay,
Yeah.
you know, let's keep him. And he also came in multiple flavors, and had some different power ups, because he was supposed
I
to
like the
be
gray one.
in a fighting game, so he has like some moves and stuff too that I may be able to give you like 3 variants or 4 variants of the same basic robot, but it's like,
Right.
okay, so here he just shoots at you. Here's the moving one. Here's the what just happened to my computer? Why did you go dark? All right, we're still here. Okay,
So that
everything is
crashing
still.
thing, hopefully it's
No, that was a I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to sleep, and I was like, that never happened. I thought I disabled all that. Maybe it's like, look, after you tried to cram that 3.5 gig image on my desktop, fuck you. That's anyway. So we have another graphic artist who is only going to be able to help due to time commitments in limited capacity. So he's going to kind of bang out some of our tile sheet stuff. And that's just great work that if he can get to it, he can get to it. But if not, it's not involved or deep, and it's stuff
we
that
can
if
use
he
the open
has
source.
an hour to sit down, he can make progress on that can be used. Brought in my brother Willie, who's mostly our marketing guy and does some admin stuff for me to keep me from having to all the time be soaked up in admin. But he's gonna handle starting to flesh out the level.
He's good at like first person shooters, so he can yell at us for controls.
Yeah. So, and then I think I'm going to, you know, I may come back and punch up the music and, you know, still code the music. And I think we got some issues there. There's points where the volume jumps. I just think I could simplify that by simplifying the state requirements on the player, that we talked about before the podcast.
Volume
yesterday.
jumps in the actual music track?
Yes.
Or okay. And part of that may be that you're composing it not with the mindset that, you know, certain tracks are going to go in and out.
No, it is being composed in the mindset that certain tracks are going to be going in and out. So, you know, there's some stuff in there that will need to be tweaked at some point and fixed up so it doesn't happen, that the tracks don't play out. But because we're so free on memory, we're so free on space, it gives me the option to work in more variants, more melodies of music. So I may vary up the music a little bit more, and give it some more different patterns and things that I could play, and sounds and effects that I could do with the different, you know, power-ups and devices. And then, you know, working on other graphics where I can and where I can take, you know, care of this, or, you know, take care of the sprite or animations. Like if Cicely gets all that, because graphics are our biggest hurdle at the moment. You know, we definitely need more graphic. So I think I kind of wrapped up the dubstep thing, and I've got some news we could blow through pretty quick this week of what I queued up. I thought this was interesting. So, I think we talked about this before of Beyonce, in a lawsuit because she backed a game studio to make a Beyonce Adventures game. I don't know what it was. Make a game using Beyonce and license Beyonce and all that. So she put like $20 million into the studio company to make this game, and then pulled some diva shit and then just pulled all the money from them.
Wow.
And they took her to court. Well, first ruling came back at the court today, that basically that it is a court case. That the judge came back and said, no, there are breach of contract issues on here. You are going to court, and the fact that Beyonce was negotiating after the contract was signed, because she came in and basically was like, trying to, you know, additional constraints and times, and basically the game studio said like, hey, we've already signed and agreed to this, so we're gonna, you know, build to the target, and we welcome feedback. And she's like, if you don't do this, I'm pulling the funding or something, or you know what, I'm just pulling the funding. And so she pulled out the $20 million invested in the company, and they're suing over $6.7 million in direct investment, basically costs, and then $100 million over lost revenue for the company. So the funny thing is, her lawyers argue that she's within her rights to pull the deal because the company, Gate 5, allegedly did not have financing for this to take place.
The financing that she gave them?
Yes. It's like you gave them $20 million. They were a year into a 2-year contract, I think it said. I may have misread that. But, basically it's like, for what they did, like they spent 6.7, so if they had 20 million, they could finish this game, it seems like.
Did they say anything about what this game was supposed to be, like, any details?
I think
I'm just curious, because, like...
Star Power Beyonce was the name of the title. So, no, I don't know what it was. They just basically say, like, she changed the compensation terms at a critical moment in development, and then when they refused to agree to the new terms, she pulled the funding, and so they sued her for breach of contract. I'm actually just glad that this is going to court. They're going to have their day, and that's like, no. You committed to this, and this company laid off 70 employees after you pulled funding. So, 20 million in Beyonce / Jay-Z world is not fucking much.
No.
So,
and it just, I don't know, it just sounds like the type of...
I don't care that your daddy ran Destiny's Child and gave you all the cover time. That day's over now. You're a big girl now, and you should play by big girl rules.
I'm just saying, if someone offers you $20 million to make a game about them...
Yeah. Now, and Smiler 2 pointed out in there, 100 million in lost revenues. I'm like, I read that too, and I was like, that's a generous projection of a Beyonce game. But then again, it's a Beyonce game, so you may get non-gamer types to
buy it just because.
Yes.
Maybe, or it may just be one of those that hits the bargain bin because...
True. Yeah, and I don't know, I didn't get into like platforms and where it was coming out. iOS, maybe definitely, maybe that could be a power-up thing and have a much richer device. Coming out for a DS? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Good news, Jetpack Joyride's coming to Facebook. Comes to Facebook as iOS version has hit 25 million downloads. So, Jetpack Joyride, Half Brick, former Xbox Live Indie Studio. Got some really quality titles on Xbox Live, on the service. And it essentially has seen a ton of downloads. It's a great game, and it's a very successful game with the in-app purchase model of like, you can play this game for free and enjoy it and get to do everything without having to pay a dime. I bought some in-app purchases just because I play it so much and I had so much fun with it. So this will be an interesting tale if they take this to Facebook with the in-app purchase model. Now it's a Flash game. Does that replicate for them, Because you've had Facebook games going to iOS.
Yeah.
Here's a good iOS game going to Facebook. And so that should be interesting. I hope there's some follow-up on that. Minecraft on the Xbox 360.
$20.
Fastest selling XBLA game in history. Outsold everything. Exact stats could not be given, but I think somebody said Notch tweeted 400,000 or something, and if you extrapolate from where Trials did and their numbers had gotten out or something in like an NPD thing or something like that, it puts them at 400,000 on day one. Notch tweeted that the game was profitable in what did he say?
I'm betting minutes.
No, it was a few hours.
Okay.
In an hour. He tweeted that the game was profitable in 1 hour. So I love the comment here that was on the post on Garma Sutra that thank you Notch for making all games $20 from now on, because that seemed to be the popular rumor of they've upped the number of achievements in these titles. It came out at $20. So people are like, no, that's a special case, and I'm like, no, I don't think, not the way Microsoft works.
Well,
and not that their Xbox division is losing money.
They don't. It may in fact be a special case in the sense that other $20 games will not sell as well, but what's more important is Microsoft may be convinced that it is not a special case.
I'm going to call foul in the chat right now. TLC is not the same era as Destiny's Child and Beyonce and all the single ladies. TLC is 1994. Destiny's Child is like 98, 99 at the earliest, and mainstream in the thousands.
They put out stuff at
Only
the same
your
time.
young ass would think and blend those together.
I bought their CDs at the same. I bought their
Well, then
tapes
you
at the
bought
same.
Crazy Sexy Cool very late.
Well, that one too, but I bought.
What do you mean that one too? What are you talking about? Fan mail? Is that what you're calling TLC?
That is still TLC.
That's TLC after they were bankrupt and burned dude's house down and all kinds of shit happened, and then like had to get out from their contract. Like, you need to watch some VH1 Where Are They Now? Because there's like 6 years between
I watched some of that.
Waterfall and No Scrubs. Anyway,
It was still good.
foul. Flag has been thrown.
Shut up.
The PS Vita sells 1.8 million units worldwide, and software must be strengthened, admits Sony CEO. I love the way he says that. Software must be strengthened, instead of saying, we need good games.
Yeah, because I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's a
That could
Vita. It's a
mean several
it's a
things.
handheld console. You mean, like, you need better
Uh-huh.
games.
I am right.
What do you
You're
write?
wrong.
Back that up. What do you...
TLC.
1994.
No.
You're not on mic at all either, so I'm gonna bleep all this out. So the no, do not go chasing waterfalls. You're not listening. Chat. Somebody's like, damn, I need to go. Swarovski, damn, I need to go chase some waterfalls now. It's like, no, do not go. Stick to the rivers and the lakes that you're used to. All right.
I'm gonna fit you.
I know that you're gonna have it your way or nothing at all.
Don't know why, but I don't want to remember that song.
Oh, come on. That was a fucking CG moment, too. That video where they
Yes,
came up
yes,
out of the water.
It's just one of those, like, 90s things that...
Anyway, PlayStation Vita, 1.8 million
Don't need
units.
his name.
That is not a platform to be concerned with. So for like whatever dev kits, like there was some kind of like indie kit or dev kit that there was going around for that. I think
it was actually running, like, mono or something.
Yeah, like some kind of Android or something. I don't know how all that was working. I didn't look into it because I was like, yeah, that's not going to sell a lot.
Well, I don't plan on getting a Vita,
Even the Nintendo
so...
3DS, they're doing like price cuts and all that because it's not moving handheld sales. I think the dedicated era of a dedicated handheld is kind of moving on, and it's unfortunate because I don't think, an iPod Touch that you get your kids or an iPad is the same gaming experience that you could have with dedicated hardware controls.
No, it's not going to be, and it's going to tend towards different types of games.
The problem is, instead of just making a better, faster DS Lite, Nintendo's adding all this 3DS shit on it, The touchscreen was novel, but in most games, not necessary, And it's like, just make a portable screen.
Or heck, if you could build a small, Android, small Android device that would, do both and had the controls on it, that would be crazy. That would be exactly
So,
what...
I'd love for this game to turn it out because I do have an Xbox Live indie game equivalent on there, and it's an open, approachable platform, but, it's expensive, and they go with these gimmicks of, you can touch the back.
Well, no, but the Xbox Live Indie Games like service, the fact that you can download the dev kit or download the SDK, that may be a good sign for, the PS4 or whatever.
Yes,
Hopefully.
that may be. I think what some of these studios really need to do, or some of these companies, console manufacturers, with their opening and outreach, they really need to just reach out and partner with a Unity or an Unreal and say, like, okay, we could make our own dev kit, but we would like for you to sell a plugin, to us, and we'll fund your development of your kit, and then,
Yeah.
That way it's like becomes much more appealing because it's like Unity, and I hit my iOS and my PC and Mac edition and all that, and I can just like buy an Android. I could buy a Vita for $400. If the game's successful, hell, why not? And then that's what you want to do as Vita. You want to tap into that market of Jetpack Joyride of basically like, well, I'm already on this platform and I can go everywhere, and yeah, why not? Just pay $400 and throw it on that platform too.
Yeah, and if you're using something like Unreal or Unity, you don't have the flexibility that you have with something like XNA, where you can load any number of different frameworks.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. They could work with them of like, hey, we want to like, limit these certain things, so
But it's going to be more accessible, and you're actually probably going to see a lot more participation in it. With it's not just hardcore devs.
I think for the console manufacturers, you have to face that it's an end of an era of your closed console. If the next consoles keep coming out and try to play it as closed as they are, and want to have a digital store that's encouraging indie developers to put on there, and indie meaning non-publisher, right? So an open marketplace doesn't necessarily mean that they'll like XBLIG take anything. They could still curate it, but like a Steam type experience. I think you're going to have to support more than your native framework. Because, indie studios don't have a lot of money for porting. You don't represent the sales that a Steam does do, and it's like, well, my iOS plus my Steam, if I get those, or PC and iOS and, Mac and all that, are making me huge amounts of chunk. You don't offer me that good of a deal, and I have to port. I mean, I really have to port it. I can't just like get a plug-in, load a new copy of the project, and say build for iOS and fix the issues.
Although I think console makers probably have, they have a little longer. They have one generation, probably more than the handheld consoles do.
Yeah. Google and Android is building its own version, and I love this, of Apple's Game Center for Android. So Google is building basically a centralized leaderboard and achievement. This Garmin Sutra article, Mike Rose there, I can't believe he got this entire article calling this an Apple Game Center-like system. It's a fucking Xbox Live system. It's leaderboards and achievements. Like, at least let's give credit where credit's due, on this.
Well, but it's on mobile.
It's on mobile. Yeah, big fucking deal.
Mobile devices.
It's Windows Phone 7 has Xbox Live achievements and leaderboards.
It was on, I don't know.
But it's not even mentioned. Like, it's not even in the article of like Apple's Game Center and, Xbox Live. It's just like, Google is copying Apple, to make this thing. Like, no.
When Apple does something, they're first. Even
exactly.
When they're not.
It's like playing into that. Like, Apple wasn't the first on this.
We've always been at war with East Asia.
Eurasia.
You're right.
The quote is Eurasia because it's a fictitious future in 1984. Flag for Dylan. All right, I'm just throwing flags tonight on. You will not misremember anything of my childhood. All right. Speaking of Xbox, Microsoft testing Internet Explorer on the Xbox. This is a rumor. But that Microsoft will have an IE version representing the first time that they unlock the console for just internet browsing. Also rumored that it will work with Kinect. I could not give a fuck, I think.
Well, it seems like something they a direction they kind of have to go, but
it's going to come so ridiculously limited. Like, it won't be allowed to stream Hulu.
Well, that's probably true.
Won't support any kind of Flash player. So YouTube, like, what would you do with a browser on a computer? I would go to dorkly.com and watch their original videos. Well, guess what I can't do on a system that doesn't run Flash? So, to me, this seems stupid. I understand there's a web browser in, PlayStation?
Yes, there is.
Is it worth a shit?
I don't know. I've never used it.
I mean, I don't know because I never turned on my PS3.
But I
installed Opera on the Wii when it came out just because it was kind of a novelty to have it. Never used it.
That was really before.
It did play Flash.
Yeah, well, I think the possible, and I want to stress possible, symbolic issue here is if they're willing to lower that restriction. Because the reason they don't have a browser on the console is so that they can control...
Yeah.
You know what happened when we, there was a news story at some point when we came out with the browser, oh, now you can get porn on your Wii.
Yep.
This may be kind of a sign that they're loosening restrictions. This is maybe the first thing that has to happen, assuming they don't kill it off first, for Xbox Live Indie games to be able to go out and access the internet.
And this also shows you how much control the Xbox team is losing at Microsoft on its own platform, because this is coming from we're going to make this the living room device, not a game console. We're going to compete with Roku's and Apple TVs now, as well as sell games. This is not something that's coming out of the game side.
No.
And may backfire on them horribly, because if Xbox 720 gets looked at as not a serious gaming platform, then you've lost all your year one sales of all your hardcore gaming enthusiasts who want to play the next. And it's oh man, this thing is just the same power as the previous one. And you're already going to be up against a very successful 360. A lot of people will probably just I'm going to wait till the price comes down because my games look great on the 360. I have no complaints here. Titles will still come out for the 360 because of the install base. So when a game like Call of Duty 4 comes out for the 360 and the 720, the 720 version is not taking advantage of anything super special on the 720, so might as well get... it's like when Legend of Zelda, when Twilight Princess came out for both platforms. It's kind of well, I guess they didn't make the motion controls that integral, did they? With that, so... Speaking of these consoles, so CA Mobile Boss, Creative Assembly guy, these companies with these coats of people I don't know. iOS dev effort to hit console complexity wall. So essentially, he's saying that the iOS market, the App Store market, is in this arm race of getting better frameworks and higher production value expectations, and it's just going up and up and up, and soon it'll be like the consoles, and any developers won't be able to compete again, and the window will be closed. And I think that argument is fundamentally flawed, because the consoles are not off limits to indie developers because they require complex frameworks with big budgets.
Right.
It's because they're closed systems. And unless Apple's going to close the system, iOS development has gotten easier. When it launched, it was fucking Objective-C. That's some painful shit. You can go get Unity now and, just start drag and drop and build your game. You can get Game Maker. You can get Game Salad. You can get all these tools and make your game. And the second reason why this argument is false is there's only so much you want to do in a mobile setting.
Right.
These deep 3D games, I've downloaded some of them. I don't play them. They look wonderful. I'm wow, that's impressive that can run. And I'm surprised. This is an amazing team. Wow, look at all this. And then I never play them. I load up Hero Academy. By the way, I'm VINULL on Hero Academy. Send me a challenge. I'll kick your ass. All comers welcome. I'm down to a very tight core, dedicated, never stop playing group at this point. And yeah, I do occasionally lose. I do occasionally overextend and try some things, but I still carry a very strong win record there. I hate just trying to pick up games. I'd rather me and challenge me, because I hate pickup games, because then they start to lose and then they never move again. But yeah, so for those two reasons, I don't see this danger.
I think it could change things, but yeah, not in the way they think. I'm not exactly sure how it will change things. It won't write off indies entirely, but I think the biggest competition that indies have to deal with is the fact that more and more indies are coming to the surface.
Yeah, it's the volume, and you have to market. It's not enough to be on the new release window of iOS anymore. You need marketing outside of that, and you need some of the sites that cover new games to cover you, so that you get some links, so that you rise to the best selling, which, Apple makes a pretty decent interface for searching and finding stuff. I go in there and I browse, and I feel it does a reasonably job of finding me something good
you might also like.
But not necessarily saying that I am not missing stuff that I would also like because of the volume. So I just think it's a fact of there are a lot of good apps, and
there are things.
It's not an Xbox Live indie game situation of the volume of release crap drowns out the good stuff. No.
Yeah.
The volume is high, and the good stuff drowns out the crap, and now you have to be really good now to get on the good list.
Yeah, but volume is still volume. I mean, there's going to be some really good stuff that gets passed over, and they're right that publishers present a threat. It is not because of the publisher's budget, except that publishers can have a huge budget and can probably create
publisher games
a
like
deluge of games.
Some of the buggiest shits.
So, speaking of these app stores, guess who? Facebook. Gonna launch an app store.
I thought, well, I guess
No.
not.
So people have like
applications.
They have like in-application purchases and things like that. But like actually, like I'm going to browse the app store and I'm going to purchase an app for Facebook now. So Facebook has an app store. And how long do you want to bet before the announcement follows that
Google Plus,
all Facebook apps must go to the Facebook App Store, and if they're not free, then they will use the Facebook money system. And
Facebook apps,
Facebook has already tried to go to the Facebook monetary system, where you had to use Facebook coins or whatever for any in-app purchases.
There's something weird about this, and it may just be me as a web developer, as someone who's done web development, looking at it and going, that doesn't, like, why, like, this is kind of an artificial construct. Granted, it's probably no more artificial than the Google or iOS App Store, but at least those are, like,
on the PC, yeah, on the PC, on an open platform like the PC. That's why I say
on an open platform like the web.
That's why I said, like, how long do you think it'll take before the restriction is you have to, if you want to access the API, you have to go to the App Store, because why else would you do this? If people don't like the terms of your App Store, they'll just go around it. Like, why would Zynga ever do this?
That is true.
Zynga has no need for them to integrate with that. Zynga is going to get better terms on their money handling it straight than allowing a third party to take a cut. So
I guess it depends on how it works. If they can build their own apps on their own site and connect it to Facebook, so you still get all the social spam, let's call it, yeah, they have no need of it. But if Facebook starts putting restrictions on that, then they may have issues.
Yeah. Look, we got a question in chat. Why Captain Dubstep was XNA? If we're dead or whatever, is that what's going on? So xnalastdance.com, it's basically on XNA as kind of a like, hey, this is what we would prefer to develop in, what we love, what our first choice is, and it's not a game about making money. Captain Dubstep is about completing a game we can be proud of and be a showpiece, not
we can be proud of.
Yeah, it's not
Why
like...
are you laughing?
Because he said we can be proud of.
Yeah, it's a game to point at and say, like, look, we executed a real game. Now take us seriously, Steam, on our next game ideas or something like that. Like, it's a stepping stone game for us, and so we're just gonna do it in XNA. Because also XNA shows you, like, it runs on the console, which is a limited memory environment, and you have to be, so you can't be as wasteful on a PC as you can on 360, because it's 2005 hardware. That was probably technically 2003 hardware when it shipped. So that's why it's on XNA.
And in part,
and then the rate things are going with Mono Game and some of the other add-ons and Sunburn. We may be able to stick to what we know in new platforms when we're ready to jump into new platforms. But we also have Unity licenses, so we're ready to go to Unity too.
But in part, it's the kind of game that really would not work on a mobile device. And I think, when you came up with a concept, what we were doing was XNA, and we never had a good reason to deviate from that. So
I'm going to link to this in the show notes, but in the 20th anniversary of Wolfenstein 3D, John Carmack did a little interview, a little 30-minute video, and there's like commentary of him playing the game and talking about how they laid out sprites, design, and iterations they went through. And I started playing the web version. There's a web version of this now, and I was playing it. And the web version is done in divs. Like, it's not even Canvas HTML. It's not Flash. It's not Canvas. It's just jQuery and abused div blocks. And it runs fine.
Like, each div is essentially...
Like, by writing divs to the DOM, I don't know what level they're doing it. If the div is like a sprite, or the div is like a pixel. But yeah, by writing divs to the DOM, that's how they're running this game. No canvas
blows
and
my
graphic,
mind.
you know, no HTML5 happening there.
But then again, I mean,
It is Wolfenstein 3D. So he talks a lot about it, and he gives a lot of cool insights. And also to point out that, you know, for all the effort that we do in our games now and all that, like, it's still fun. So, like, the core mechanic of fun is not relied upon all this, and maybe these multi-million-dollar, multi-year AAA projects are forgetting that, you know? So it's a good kind of like, you know, maybe we, you know, back to the roots type thing. And it's John Carmack, you know, so he's legend of the industry. That's worth watching. I'll link to it in show notes. And then also linked in the show notes the article that I read that broke down exactly how to hack the Metroid level maps, which broke down the whole storage mechanism and all that, which you can glean the insights from reading that of like how that influenced the design and things like that. And I just thought that was a good, just fascinating read. So with that, it is Kickstarter time. Before I hit the game Kickstarters, I got a couple non-game Kickstarters, one of which I backed and one of which I just had to mention. I backed Math Girls comic. So this Math Girls is a manga in Japan. And essentially this manga artist and anime artist or whatever, she I guess she was a math major or something, and on the side, you know, like instead of just doing illustrations, she started like explaining in manga form discrete math concepts, but in like a high school manga, high school anime setting of the high school drama and all of that going on. So she started to have like some high school drama characters, but then also like the kids were, you know, covering these high advanced math concepts, and fans in Japan loved it. And then so she started writing, she wrote a full book as a story, like a novel, and then she started doing full mangas. And so this Kickstarter is a effort to translate her stuff to the US. Now they've already translated her novel as a print-on-demand book, and you know that you can buy now, which I did. I kind of want to read that because you know it's a really novel way to learn math, and being this Math Girls concept, like it'll appeal to adolescent girls, and you know it's a route to STEM. So I really want to kind of read it. Glowing reviews on Amazon. There's like 8 because it's like a indie self-published book, but all of them 5 stars, and they tell you like any middle school through, you know, college will get the math concepts, and they're explained really well and things like that. So I'm going to read it as well. I'm interested. The Kickstarter is to fund converting the manga, which because it's manga and it has special printing needs and all that, you can't print on demand the manga. That really, to do done right. Plus, you're going to have typesetters. You're basically going to have to go in and hand edit the graphics, which they have to scan from the original Japanese one. So when you have to scan them, then you have to go in and fix the scans and, you know, make it look nice and handle all those issues before it goes to print. So they want to do it right. They're only asking $9,000. And it's got almost a quarter today already. So that was the first one up. The next one, and this is funded, is Tentacle Bento by Soda Pop Miniatures. And this is a card game in which you play a tentacle monster who goes to the school filled with a bunch of attractive anime archetypes, such as you have the smart girls, the sexy students, the cute students, the sporty students. And this is a Magic the Gathering style card game.
Collectible or non-collectible?
Collectible, because as you go up in levels, you can get packs and things like that. So, like, you're basically a tentacle monster disguised as a cute girl, but obviously you're out to tentacle rape. They don't use that phrase on the Kickstarter because I think that would probably kick them away. You know, like, that'd be a flag word. Like, Kickstarter would be like, auto rejection. The word rape, auto reject, you know. But wait, it's just tentacle rape. That's okay, you know. Fans want that. And apparently they do, because this thing is up for about a day, 3 or 4 days. It's already funded. It's got 16,000 of the 13,000 required. So that was the non-game relating Kickstarters of the week that I thought were.
So wait a minute, that's not a video game. That's
a card game.
Card game.
That's a Magic the
Okay, I thought
Gathering
it was-
style collectible card game. Yes.
Wow, it's interesting to see a collectible card game.
You are getting
now,
a
'cause-
box of the game.
Yeah,
As like the starter edition, and then if
Yeah.
you go up in tiers, you get booster packs or whatever.
yeah. It seems like a lot of like the card games that are successful nowadays are non-CCGs. Simply,
Or that, or they actually are like this game where they're like, we're a bunch of friends who like playing CCGs, but we don't have time to get into Magic the Gathering anymore. So
Yeah.
we're gonna play like the bunnies game,
Killer Bunnies.
Killer Bunnies, because
Yeah,
it's like a pick it up and play it for like a game night.
Yeah.
Nobody's buying decks, nobody's collecting cards.
Okay, so wait, is it deck building?
I think there's some deck building in bunnies, but
like, a game
you don't buy expansion packs for your deck. You buy expansions to the game.
Okay, that's what I was
So
getting at.
there's like a
'cause
master deck, and you kind of take cards out of it.
That's what I would consider non-collectible because basically you're still doing deck building. Dominion is like the key example now.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is,
So
like, non-collectible, but
like
still
you
deck
could
building.
collect them, but they're not normally played in that way. You don't normally show up with your own deck. It's like
Right.
I buy the game, we all come to my house and play it.
Okay.
The indie console. So I don't see this thing getting funded. I'm pointing this out for the idea. The idea was basically like, hey, I'm going to build a console that has this open indie service. That indie games can publish a Steam box essentially.
Yeah.
Just do a Steam box
Except
that you
they're
could
on-
download the software and run on your PC as well. One, I don't know how much interest is there because for that to be successful, you want this curated experience, and if you're gonna sell the games through there, you're no different than Xbox Live Indie games. You know what I mean? Like you're not curating and and all that. Plus, you're gonna be a small niche on
Yeah.
top of that.
And as that small niche, you have to both handle the hardware and the service, and both
Correct.
of those things have to be appealing enough.
The other thing is, if you actually want the box, it's $350. So it's like,
Ask
Exactly.
PlayStation how that works.
no, that's not going to work for an indie console. It's not going to have titles.
It's a neat concept.
It's a neat
Yeah.
concept, and it's a neat idea if
can't
somebody's trying to
mass produce
kickstart that. But yeah, you can't mass produce that. You're not going to get the critical mass to make it successful. And you know what? The indies have a console. It's called a PC. So here's an interesting one. This thing is almost funded, and out for a few days. Redux, Dark Matters. Out for, they say Steam. I don't know if they got a Steam contract, but they say XBLA. I don't know if they got an XBLA contract, but for $5, you'll get the XBLA version. Like, I don't think Microsoft works that way. And I think you're promising things that you may not be able to deliver. But so this is a shoot 'em up, a retro style, old school shoot 'em up. And they want the money for the dev kits, etc., to play on that. But it's like, do you need published contracts? You need more than dev kits.
Yeah.
So I think this is a bad Kickstarter in general, although it's a lot funded because they're going to press Sega Dreamcast discs of the game as well.
Wow. Like that seems like I would just do PC and
Random?
Dreamcast. Do that.
Yeah, PC and Dreamcast is probably all it'll end up being anyway.
Yeah.
But
Those are the things I'm assuming.
I don't know what it takes to write a Dreamcast game. These guys, they sound like they've done it before.
Is
It's like
homebrew
hacker and
for-
homebrew type situation. So if you have the capability of that, that pretty much launched them to funding. Now, I don't think Unity supports the Dreamcast. So
No, but
the idea of like having to do a Dreamcast port means you can't really reuse that code a whole lot. You know what I mean? So understand, like there's a cost for t-shirts. Make sure you account for the cost of the Dreamcast edition so that you actually have the money for the development of your game. This next game backed crazy fast, Diamond Trust of London. And, this is an iPad. No, I'm sorry. This is a Nintendo DS game. And they already have the approval to publish the game. The game is already done. This is a sim game where at this time in London, there was this group called the Diamond Trust, because there was essentially this law that let them exploit diamond miners and get the diamonds, and they basically cleaned them by lobbying them through, I don't know, I didn't pay attention entirely to the plot. But so what happened is the law changed, and there was a date to when it went into effect. So there was this Diamond Trust that was basically set up to exploit as much as they possibly fucking can before the window closed on it. And so you basically play one of these diamond companies trying to exploit these workers as fast as you can before the law changes. But of course, your employees, because they're remote, you also have like loyalty problems where they may or may not rely loyalty, and you'd be playing DS to DS or I don't know if they're doing
Kind of sets
link
you up
play.
as the bad guy.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of playing a nefarious manipulator.
It's like the train board game you talked about.
The funding round is to get the amount of money required for the initial run of DS cards. So there's a minimum they have to pay Nintendo to run their carts. So they need to hit that minimum, and then on top of that minimum, you know, whatever games they sell. But that looks like it's crazy, and that's cool. I put those both in there because, like, here's a Sega Dreamcast, here's a Nintendo DS card where an indie got permission, but finished the game. But the problem is, like, you have to order, you know, $70,000 worth of carts at once. You can't just, you know, do less than that. This next game up, Haunts, is a game of a haunted mansion that you play either the people staying there overnight, or you actually play the ghouls. So you could choose to play either side. They say they've been working on it for years and put $40,000 into it, needed another $20,000 to get it done. They have a lot of work done. The weird thing is for all this work done, they don't have a lot to show in the video.
Yeah.
The game play clips are very, very short, which makes me very, very suspicious. It's attracting a lot of funding quickly. So, I mean, I think it's going to be successful, but I don't know, just kind of like...
Yeah, I mean, the implication is if they've got 40,000, then they're 2/3 of the way there, and they need...
Well, I think they've already spent their 40,000.
Yeah, like...
Are you sure your next 20 is going to get you to the finish line?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. This game I saw today, Pathfinder Online Technology Demo. Fantasy Sandbox MMO. The Kickstarter is to make a demo to take to investors to fund an MMO.
Is this actually done by the people who make the Pathfinder RPG, or is this like a fan-made...
That's what I was going to ask. Do you know why this fucking thing that gives you no game is at $70,000 when they ask for 50 a few days after?
Pathfinder, I want to say...
So Pathfinder exists, I guess, because they do talk about a tabletop role-playing, and you'll get some books in the next edition or something.
Yeah,
they can't give you a game because you're not funding a game. You're funding a tech demo.
I want to say it's either like second or third edition D&D kind of republished or revised and supported.
So, like, you'll get an exclusive video of the tech demo, and thank you. Okay, you'll get access to the PDF of the Thorn Keep book. In addition, you'll get a $5 reward level. You get access to Goblin Squad mission boards at the next level. These have like hundreds of backers, like 200 something backers, you know? You get a printed copy of the Thorn Keep book, and I don't get it. This does not add up for me.
Pathfinder has...
But this is our tabletop, and it does have a...
Like, it has a following, so I think that's probably it.
So this is people just like we are throwing money at nothing for the idea that we get an MMO of our beloved universe.
Yes.
We got to get on Kickstarter, Dylan. Fools and their money are soon parted, and we need to do some of that. This next one is not up here because I think it's a great idea. This next one is up here because I think you're lying a little in your description. So, Malevolence, the infinite RPG, an RPG that never ends, okay? Play this thing forever. It's not an MMO, it's a single-player RPG that never runs out of land, never runs out of missions. But the world is not randomly generated. It is infinite.
Sir, I call bullshit.
Exactly. I called bullshit enough till I dug down and read the bit where they said, the world is generated through a method called procedural generation.
So it's pseudo-random instead of random, I'm guessing is...
Yeah, it's like, wait. You're not random, but you take a random value and run it through an equation to come out with a varied result. You're fucking random, all right?
You're as close to random, like, in normal lexicon, yes.
I mean, your
random.
procedural generator system may be fairly good and generate fairly interesting quests.
Yeah, and you may be, like, creating a large number of, fairly large blocks that fit together instead of, random on a small or low detail level.
Yeah, so that thing, they're asking for $6,000. They've got $840. And apparently they have a lot of this up. So a lot of this is done and in progress. Okay, so this was the week of remakes and Remember Me's on Kickstarter. The first remake, out the gate, was funded. Basically, we're gonna do we're gonna update XCOM. So, bam, we want $50,000 to do a new version of XCOM. We got some graphics that show you we know what we're doing, some gameplay build-up, and they did it perfectly. The first few minutes of the video, just watching gameplay. No commentary, you're just watching gameplay. And it's like, okay, you got me sold, you got gameplay, what's the idea? XCOM, boom, people are clicking pledges. So successful is this, funded in the first day, and it breaks my $10 rule. It's $20 to get a copy of the game. They don't have a $10 level.
Again, XCOM has a following.
XCOM has a following, but it's not like,
is it the same people?
We are the people who made XCOM.
Okay.
There may be some related, like if they do, it's pretty buried. There's no big, there's no big, this is who we are, and this is why, we were going to remake, and it's not called XCOM, it's called Xenonauts. But it basically is an XCOM. Next one. Rob Sweigert's Portal, 1986, Reborn. You ever heard of Portal from 1986?
I want to say I saw it referenced in some sort of, article about games that actually had the same name as popular games before.
Yeah.
Like retro games.
So this will be interesting because he is going to remake his Portal game in a modern game, and he was interested in interactive storytelling and stuff like that. I don't know who the fuck he was, and it's not getting funded at all. And I think this is a case of like, look, because you release a C64 game does not necessarily make you a titan of the industry legend.
Yeah,
he didn't cite like anything between like his 1984 Commodore 64 1986 game and today. Like this long, illustrious career. Basically, he was like a writer and wanted to use a new medium, but was disappointed in that like most of the game still ended up as text on a screen. And now I can realize my vision of an interactive storytelling experience, which when I hear interactive storytelling experience, I hear QuickTime events. Like, that...
Or worse, or something.
Or worse.
Yeah, Myst, or...
But it will be interesting to see what happens because, I don't know if he has the trademark. Trademarks expire.
Yeah, and that...
I don't care that you had a game called Portal first.
Valve might have some issue with that.
I think Valve may have some issue
they have a better case than Bethesda against Notch, I would say.
I would say that as well, because trademarks expire if you don't upkeep them. Next remake up, the guys who made Conquest want to make Conquest 2. And this is a PC real-time strategy game. Is there a screenshot? Nope, not a screenshot of gameplay. There's a lot of gameplay in the video eventually. It does a horrible, like, look, my kids are playing a game, and they try to put this PC game CD in the Xbox 360. Why won't it work, Dad? And it's like, because it's a PC game, and, like, games don't go on the PC, Dad, you know? And this awful shtick. They finally get into some gameplay. I don't know if they're showing gameplay from Conquest or Conquest 2, the new one. But they want to make this. Now, to remake their game, they want $675,000 to remake their RTS.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what I said. That is a wow. That is a
more
big...
Than,
yes,
like,
more than your Tim Schafers are asking. Yeah. And...
Nobody needs to ask for more than Tim Schafer asked.
he said there's a mod following to Conquest, the original one. Like, people are still playing it and stuff. But I don't know if you've got that hardcore of a following, because I never heard of this. Like, if you want to remake a classic space RTS, Homeworld. Was it Homefront or Homeworld?
I don't know. I never played either of them. So.
It was the in-space 3D battles RTS. I think it was Homeworld.
That name sounds familiar, but I don't know.
All right. Continuing. Remember a few weeks ago, a few podcasts ago, I said, we were talking about Kickstarter, I'm like, are we at the point where you kickstart your Kickstarter? Because there was that, for the Space Quest game, the guys had set up a website, and they had set up a Facebook, and they were like, you know, hey, we're these guys going to remake Space Quest, and we're the original guys that remade Space Quest. And you're like, this smells of Kickstarter, but there's no Kickstarter. So you guys get funding to remake this?
I guess you would
or
do that.
did they build a mailing list, which seems option B? They built a mailing list ahead of time, so when the Kickstarter went up, they could spam their mailing list and said, we're kickstarting now our effort, so you can pre-order the game.
So you use Kickstarter to test market a concept, so you don't get egg on your face by, you know, like launching into development. And now we're to the point where you test market the Kickstarter so you don't get embarrassed.
Now you do a Facebook page to see if you get enough likes, to see if you can have a Kickstarter page, to see if you can have a game. Next is going to be setting up a Twitter account to see if you can get enough followers to have a Facebook page liked enough to have the Kickstarter to have a game.
Taking after this year's GOP primaries, I see.
There's a bump on a log in the middle of the sea. Yes.
They announced that they will be suspending
They
their
need
Kickstarter page on
$500,000 to do a Space Quest game.
Say that again.
Space Ventures to do a all that. Again, $100,000 more than Tim Schafer was asking. If you're doing a click and point adventure game, starting to wonder about that number. Last one, Carmageddon, Reincarnation. Going to remake Carmageddon. And then, yes, this is a remake. It's up about halfway already of $400,000. So Tim Schafer asked that money. And they're making that. And I think this has the original developers back. I may be wrong in that. They may just have secured the license. Which, you know, if you're holding some old school property, like, now is the time to find some indie studio willing to kickstart it to get some juice out of your property, I think. Question of the game. Yeah, a team of 8 worked on the original Carmageddon at Stainless, so Stainless is the company, and 5 are still with it. So 8 people worked on the game, 5 of those people still worked on the game, so yes, it is the same game developers, even the same game company. So that's pretty cool, actually. It's a pretty good story. I like that. So yeah, I think we're wrapped up. I think this is a show. This is one we can put in the can and feel good about. Next week, we will be recording on Saturday morning. Probably around 10, is that what I said?
Yeah.
10 a.m. Eastern. The reason being is that we will have David, our guest will be David, last name is escaping me, of Shuggy Cat Games, or no, Smudged Cat Games, who released Shuggy Adventure, which placed very high. It was a finalist, like a second or third place finalist, I think, in a Dream Build play. Went on, and he's blogged about this, of publisher hell, getting locked up for 4 years, got launched as an XBLA game to no marketing whatsoever. So basically all that effort for nothing, because it didn't get marketed and didn't show up on time in the dashboard, and that was botched, and, you know, Microsoft is like, whoops, oh well, who cares? Sorry. So they do that to indies and, you know, XBLA titles. And he recently announced that he has landed a Steam deal, so his game will go to Steam, which there it may actually see a good sales track or record. And I mean, by all accounts, this is supposedly an excellent game. I haven't actually played it. But he's done several other indie games, XBLIG, on there as well that you can play. And so that'd be a good podcast. So thing is he's over in London, so he's not like a mad ninja James over there and is up at all hours so he can make the podcast at our time. He's like, that's 3 a.m. here. And I'm like, yeah, we'll move the time for you. Don't worry about it. So we will be back Saturday next week. So until then, everyone, good luck. I hope everybody listening is entering the Dream Build Play competitions. If you are, go to xnalastdance.com. Just sign up real quick and put in your blog information, because I love reading the developer updates. A lot of good updates and progress going on in the game, and I promise I will get a Captain Dubstep update where we're at on there as well, and show off some of this art as well. All right, so thank you everyone for tuning in to the live stream, and thank you everyone who downloads and listens to the podcast. We will be back in a week.